The first thing Nolan Zayler noticed about the alien delegation was how tall they were. Not just tall in the basketball player way. Tall in the ducking under the hangar bay doors way. The second thing he noticed was that they looked deeply unimpressed with Earth. And the third was that none of them had touched the food. The delegation stood in a tight cluster near the buffet table, their pale blue skin casting a soft glow under the fluorescent lights. Each one wore a form-fitting dark suit with a band of shifting color across the chest, the only thing that moved on them. Their leader, a slender-bodied alien with long fingers and a permanent expression of mild concern, studied the steaming trays with narrowed eyes. Nolan, hands in his pockets, leaned against the folding table where the pancakes sat under a heat lamp. "You sure you don't want to try anything?" he asked, his voice light. "It's not poisoned." "Well, unless you're allergic to maple syrup." The leader tilted its head. "All organic compounds present have been scanned. The results indicate high levels of glucose, lipids, dairy proteins, and saturated fats. Poisonous." Nolan raised an eyebrow. "Poisonous is a strong word. That's just breakfast." Another alien, shorter and broader in the shoulders, muttered something in their native language. The leader replied without looking at it. "Your people consume this." Routinely, the leader asked. "Every Sunday at my mom's house," Nolan said. "Double stacks, extra butter, and if you're lucky, she burns a few so you get that crispy edge." The alien leader turned back to the buffet. "We have no biological need for indulgent consumption. So you're no fun at parties," Nolan said under his breath. He didn't expect them to laugh. They didn't. But the broad-shouldered one stepped a little closer to the pancakes. Kira Wensley, the cultural liaison assigned to the delegation, walked up with a tight smile. "Nolan, can we chat for a second?" He followed her a few steps away, careful to keep his voice low. "You're antagonizing them," she said through clenched teeth. "I'm just trying to get them to loosen up," he replied. "They've been here 3 days and haven't eaten a thing. They claim our food is incompatible with their biochemistry." "Yeah, I heard," Nolan said. "But one of them keeps sniffing the syrup when he thinks no one's looking." Kira sighed and rubbed her forehead. "We can't risk a diplomatic incident over pancakes. Then we should definitely avoid the chili dogs." Back at the buffet, the broad-shouldered alien had picked up a fork and was holding it like a surgical instrument. He poked a pancake gently, then glanced around and dropped it back onto the pile. Nolan grinned. "Look at him. He's curious." "Curious doesn't mean safe," Kira warned. Later that night, the aliens returned to their quarters, sterile, temperature-controlled units built into the hangar's east wing. Nolan, still on duty, passed by their section and caught a faint scent of something sweet. He stopped, sniffed the air, and frowned. The next morning, he confirmed his suspicion. "Someone took 4 pancakes," he said, pointing at the buffet tray. Kira checked the log. "No one came in after midnight except cleaning staff. Which means someone snuck out." "You think the aliens stole pancakes?" "Not stole. Sampled." She gave him a look, but her eyes lingered on the empty tray. That afternoon, the broad-shouldered alien approached Nolan while he was adjusting the coffee machine. "I require clarification," it said. "Shoot. The circular carbohydrate discs, what is the preparation method?" Nolan blinked. "You're talking about pancakes?" "Yes." He fought the urge to grin. "Flour, eggs, milk, baking powder. Mix it all up, pour it on a hot griddle. And the amber substance? Maple syrup. Comes from trees." The alien hesitated. "More are needed." It wasn't a request. "Sure," Nolan said, already reaching for the mix. "But I'm making them fresh. You want to watch?" The alien nodded stiffly. Nolan led him back to the kitchen, where he fired up the griddle and got to work. As the batter sizzled, the alien leaned in closer, watching the bubbles form on the surface. "They change state rapidly," it said. "Solid to semi-solid." "Yeah, that's how you know when to flip them." When Nolan plated the first batch, the alien took one and studied it like it was a live specimen, then drizzled syrup over it in a cautious zigzag. Nolan stepped back. Moment of truth. The alien took a bite, chewed, then paused. "Is it edible?" Nolan asked. The alien said nothing. Instead, it took another bite, then another, and then reached for a second pancake. "Thought so," Nolan said. By the following evening, 3 more aliens had shown up in the kitchen. They didn't speak much, but they hovered while Nolan cooked, watching each movement with unnerving focus. He didn't mind the company. It was better than the long silences during most of their meetings. 2 days later, things got complicated. One of the aliens, thin and twitchy, collapsed during a briefing. Alarms went off, medics rushed in, and the rest of the delegation tensed like coiled wires. He has ingested foreign substances, the leader said coldly. This was a mistake. Nolan stepped forward. He only had pancakes. Nothing else. The leader looked at him with a glare that could freeze glass. Your food is toxic to our physiology. This confirms it. Kira pulled Nolan aside. You better hope he's right. If that alien dies from a breakfast dish, you just triggered an interspecies disaster. Nolan didn't argue. He just waited. The alien was taken to the med bay. Hours passed. Reports filtered in: no signs of organ failure, stable vitals, mild gastrointestinal distress. By morning, the alien was sitting up, sipping activated mineral broth with a blanket over his shoulders. He's recovering, the medic said. Nothing life-threatening, just indigestion. The leader was not pleased. This incident proves we must not consume human sustenance. Nolan nodded solemnly. Understood. But later that night, he returned to the kitchen and found the broad-shouldered one waiting by the counter. For pancakes, it said. With syrup. Nolan chuckled. You guys are impossible. We will compensate with data on protein synthesis if required. Deal. Over the next week, pancake requests increased. The aliens insisted on discretion. No witnesses. No logs. One even asked Nolan to teach him how to operate the griddle. Kira caught wind of it eventually. You're running a black market breakfast operation, she said. I'm building trust, Nolan replied. You're going to get court-martialed over flapjacks. He shrugged. Worth it. Then came the inspection. A high-ranking official from the alien homeworld arrived unannounced. The delegation scrambled to hide the evidence. Syrup bottles vanished, napkins were incinerated, even the scent was neutralized with ozone emitters. The official toured the facility with an expressionless face. When passing the kitchen, he hesitated. Sniffed the air. What is that aroma? He asked. The leader stiffened. Nothing of importance. But the official stepped inside, eyes narrowing as he examined the griddle. This is a food preparation device? Yes, the leader said. Primitive. Inefficient. Irrelevant. The official ran a finger over the counter. I wish to sample the output. The leader faltered. That is unwise. The official turned. Are you refusing me? Nolan, standing nearby, held up the batter bowl. I can have something ready in 10 minutes. The leader looked like it wanted to melt through the floor. The official nodded. Proceed. Nolan worked in silence. When the pancake was ready, he placed it on a plate, added a modest drizzle of syrup, and stepped back. The official took a bite. Chewed. Paused. Then took another bite. When he finished, he turned to the delegation. You will continue studying this. The leader looked like someone had just told him gravity was optional. Yes. Understood. That night, the entire delegation returned to the kitchen. Nolan didn't say anything. He just handed out plates. No one spoke, but every plate came back clean. 3 days after the surprise inspection, Nolan was summoned to the hangar's converted conference room. He arrived to find the alien delegation seated in a wide arc, their expressions unreadable. The air held a faint tang of ozone, and the room's lights had been dimmed to a soft violet hue, apparently more comfortable for their eyes. On the far wall, a floor-to-ceiling display cycled through diagrams of protein chains and digestive enzyme pathways. Nolan pulled out a chair and sat. No one spoke. After a long moment, the broad-shouldered alien, who now wore a band of dim orange across his chest, leaned forward. You used a powder in the mixture, he said. White. Fine. Contained carbon, nitrogen, and traces of phosphorus. Baking powder, Nolan said. Makes them fluffy. The leader, seated dead center, interjected. We require a complete chemical breakdown of your ingredients. Ratios. Heat curves. All of it. So you're building a lab, Nolan said. We are replicating your process for controlled experimentation, the leader replied. There are variables we do not yet understand. You're trying to reverse engineer pancakes. Your food preparation methods exhibit unexpected complexity, the broad-shouldered one added. Purposeful imbalance. It is a deliberate imperfection. Nolan scratched behind his ear. I guess you could call it that. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to taste good. Define good in measurable terms. You can't. That's kind of the point. None of them responded. Nolan stood. Come on. I'll show you how to make a batch from scratch. No shortcuts. The leader hesitated, then nodded once. They were located to the auxiliary prep room, a side kitchen used by engineers to reheat ration packs. Nolan opened the cabinets and laid out ingredients: flour, eggs, milk, baking powder, sugar, salt. He retrieved a mixing bowl and began measuring with practiced ease. One of the smaller aliens moved closer. You do not calibrate. No scale. No instruments. I've made these since I was 10. You just know when it's right. The leader stepped forward. Unacceptable. Reproducibility is essential. Your method is imprecise. Nolan cracked 2 eggs into the bowl and whisked them in. That's because it's not about reproducing. It's about improvising. Sometimes the humidity changes how much flour you need. Sometimes the griddle's too hot. You adjust. No protocol, just instinct. They watched silently as he poured the batter onto the hot surface, the sizzle filling the room. The leader turned to Kira, who had arrived quietly and now leaned against the doorframe. This methodology contradicts all known culinary systems we have cataloged. That's what you get with humans, she said. Chaos wearing an apron. An hour later, Nolan stood over a tray of golden rounds, steam curling from their surfaces. He handed one to each alien, no syrup this time, just pancakes, plain. The broad-shouldered one took a bite and set his jaw. Texture inconsistent. Interior density fluctuates. But, a pause. Then, a second bite. Outside the room, a technician called out. We've got a situation in the greenhouse dome. Kira straightened. What kind of situation? Pressure drop. Internal sensors flagged a leak. Something's off in the nutrient circulators too. Nolan and Kira exchanged looks. The aliens followed as they jogged down the corridor, the scent of flour still clinging to their clothes. The greenhouse dome was sealed when they arrived, condensation streaking the inner glass. Inside, technicians in containment suits worked frantically around a ruptured irrigation valve. Water sprayed in a fine mist and several trays of engineered algae had collapsed. Kira pulled a helmet on and stepped through the airlock. Nolan stayed just outside, watching the readouts flicker. A medic emerged from the far side, holding a handheld scanner. Pressure's stable now, but we've got contamination. Something in the water lines reacting with the nutrient solution. Could be bacterial. Anyone exposed? Nolan asked. 3 techs. They're in Deccan now. No symptoms yet, but we won't know for a few hours. The leader moved closer to the viewport. You allow biological agents to circulate without sterilization redundancy? We've got filters, Nolan said. But sometimes things slip through. Unacceptable. You live in a vacuum ship. We live in dirt. It's messy. By that evening, 2 of the exposed technicians were running fevers. Nolan sat in the medical bay watching as they were given antipyretics and electrolyte drips. The 3rd technician, a woman named Jules, had started coughing up something green. The attending physician, a sharp-featured man with a clipped tone, pulled Nolan aside. We're dealing with a fast-mutating protein. It's folding in ways we don't recognize. We've got less than 12 hours before secondary symptoms hit the lungs. Do you have a treatment plan? We're running simulations now. But we need a stable model of the protein structure to develop a blocker. The broad-shouldered alien approached, now flanked by 2 others. We can assist. The physician eyed them warily. You understand protein folding? We map biological matrices in multi-dimensional phase space. Show us the contaminated samples. Within minutes, the aliens had set up a portable station in the medbay's corner. They projected a shifting lattice of light over the workstation, each strand representing the unstable protein. The leader joined them, manipulating the strands by gesturing with long fingers. Nolan leaned in. You're not using code. We visualize molecular dynamics directly. Your software is inefficient. Kira entered, holding a tablet. Command wants updates every half hour. They're preparing for possible evac. No one's leaving, Nolan said. We've got what we need right here. Hours passed. The fevered technicians were moved into isolation pods. Their heart rates climbed. Jules began to seize. The aliens worked silently, their faces lit by the glow of the protein model. At one point, they paused and conferred in low tones. Then the leader turned to the physician. We can induce a synthetic antibody cluster. It must be introduced via hemofiltration. Your machines are compatible. You're proposing dialysis with a foreign compound, the physician said. Correct. Human immune response could reject it. Not if calibrated to mitochondrial enzyme variants. The physician hesitated. We'll try it on one patient. Jules was chosen. Her condition had worsened. Her oxygen saturation dipped below 85%. The synthetic compound was introduced through a modified catheter. Within 2 hours, her vitals stabilized. By morning, the fever had broken. The physician stared at the monitors. That shouldn't have worked. The leader replied without looking up. You underestimate the adaptability of your own cellular systems. Later that day, Nolan found the broad-shouldered alien back in the auxiliary prep room, staring at an empty skillet. You helped save her, Nolan said. The alien didn't reply. Nolan stepped up beside him and handed him a whisk. This time you try. The alien hesitated, then reached for the eggs. Cracked one. Missed the bowl. Shell fragments everywhere. Almost, Nolan said. Try again. By the end of the hour, the alien had made something vaguely pancake-shaped. Burnt on one side, undercooked on the other. He took a bite, chewed carefully, then nodded. Acceptable failure. Nolan grinned. Welcome to cooking. That night, the aliens invited Nolan and Kira to their quarters. It was the first time any human had been inside. The walls pulsed with faint color, and the air smelled faintly of mineral oil and something floral. On a central table, a small dish awaited. Golden, slightly irregular, drizzled with something that shimmered faintly under the lights. You replicated it? Nolan asked. We adjusted, the leader said. This version is optimized for our biochemistry. Still follows your principles. Nolan took a bite. It wasn't quite a pancake. It had a crisp edge and a spongy core with a faint tang like citrus and something savory he couldn't place. He swallowed and nodded. Not bad. The leader folded his hands. We propose an exchange. Recipes for data. Techniques for models. We will learn from your chaos. Kira raised an eyebrow. You're opening a culinary alliance? Cooperative research, the leader corrected. But yes, pancakes are the gateway. Nolan reached for another bite. Just wait until you try lasagna. It started with a shipment delay. A cargo freighter from the orbital depot missed its re-entry window and rerouted, leaving Earth's research outpost with a 72-hour gap in scheduled supplies. Most of the humans shrugged it off, they'd been through worse. But the alien delegation, newly curious about Earth cuisine and mid-study of what they now called culinary variance matrices, took it as a logistical crisis. Nolan was in the supply bay when the manifest update came through. They bumped our priority tier, said Lieutenant Harris, scrolling through the list. Apparently, there was an emergency reroute to a Martian dome with a ruptured oxygen regulator. Nolan raised an eyebrow. And we're stuck with powdered soup and soy bricks until Friday? If we're lucky, Harris said, tapping the screen. We've got flour and oil, but no eggs. Syrup's gone. Milk's rationed. Behind them, the broad-shouldered alien who'd taken to calling himself Rel for ease inspected a crate of dried legumes like it was a coded insult. Rel turned. Your supply chain lacks internal redundancy. Nolan tossed him a packet of instant oatmeal. So does your diplomacy if you're still judging us by logistics. We are not judging, Rel said. We are recalibrating expectations. That afternoon, Nolan stood in the auxiliary kitchen, arms folded, watching as two aliens tried to make pancakes without any core ingredients. The results were technically edible. You used lentil flour, he said. There was no other starch substrate available, Rel replied. And the binder? One of your protein isolates. It coagulates under heat. Kira walked in, half jogging, and halted at the sight of the steaming tray. That better not be what I think it is. It's innovation, Rel said, placing a puck-shaped disc on a plate. Kira picked it up with a spatula. It held its shape with the grim determination of a cinder block. They're calling it crisis cakes, Nolan said. Absolutely not, Kira replied, dropping it back onto the tray with a dull thunk. You're not serving these to anyone. They're surprisingly high in fiber, Rel offered. At 0200 the next morning, Jules collapsed again. This time it wasn't infection. Her blood pressure dropped suddenly, triggering an alert in the medbay's passive monitors. Nolan was the first to respond, followed by Dr. Curry. She's hypovolemic, Curry said, inserting a line for fluids. Something's tanking her plasma volume. Get a campanile full tox screen. Nolan adjusted the oxygen flow and checked the telemetry. No fever. Respiration's shallow. Could be a reaction? She was in full recovery, Curry said. Now she's crashing. I want every contaminant retested. 2 hours later, Curry stormed into the briefing lounge holding a tablet. We missed something, she said, dropping it on the table. The synthetic compound from the aliens, it stabilized the protein, yes. But it also interfered with her renal filtration rate. Microprecipitates formed. Nolan leaned over the screen. Kidney stones. Worse, crystallized clusters in the nephrons. She's not filtering waste. Rel, who had arrived silently, spoke. We calibrated to her mitochondrial variants. You did, Curry said, but not to human renal thresholds. We flush differently than you do. The alien leader entered behind Rel and took in the screen. Show us the molecular structure. We will adjust. No, Curry said. You don't get to try again on a critical organ. It was an unforeseen variable. That's the issue. You don't foresee. You simulate. The leader turned to Nolan. Your systems are chaotic, yet you survive. How? Trial and error, Nolan said. Emphasis on the error. By midday, Jules was stable again. A new filtration procedure was developed using a chelation compound human-tested, alien-modified. It worked. Her numbers normalized within 8 hours. Afterward, Curry sat across from Nolan in the mess with a mug of black coffee and no food in sight. They can model proteins in 4 dimensions, she said. But they don't understand intuition. Or failure. They're learning, Nolan said. They're treating our biology like it's a machine with a faulty part. To be fair, he said, we kind of do that ourselves. She didn't argue. That evening, the alien delegation requested a joint session, not a briefing, not a protocol exchange. A session. When Nolan and Kira arrived, the aliens had arranged the room into a circle. There were no projectors, no visual aids. The leader stood. We misunderstood your species, he said. We believed your resilience was statistical, that you survived by numerical redundancy. Kira tilted her head. And now we understand it is behavioral. You adapt to failure. You integrate it. Rel stepped forward. We wish to integrate failure modeling into our learning systems. We require examples. You want us to teach you how to fail? Nolan asked. Not just fail, the leader said. Persist. Nolan looked at Kira. You still got that footage from the orbital repair mission? The one where the wrench floated off mid-fix and they had to improvise with a clamp and half a roll of duct tape. She nodded slowly. That's a start, Nolan said. Over the next 4 days, a new program emerged. The aliens requested Earth engineering logs, medical case studies, even episodes of a defunct reality show where contestants cooked under pressure, literally and figuratively. They asked questions. Not about success, but about what went wrong. Why it went wrong. What got invented in the middle of the breakdown. On the 5th day, the cargo freighter finally arrived. The pantry was replenished. Syrup bottles clinked as they were unloaded. Actual eggs returned to the kitchen. Rel met Nolan in the prep room. We have adjusted the crisis cake formula, he said. With eggs, it becomes palatable. Great, Nolan said, cracking his knuckles. Let's make something no one's ever written down. Together, they started mixing. No measurements, no timers, just instinct. Rel added a pinch of something from his own stores, a fine, rust-colored powder with a nutty scent. What is that? Nolan asked. Extracted from a protein-rich fungus that grows on magnetic rock. And it's safe. We have no idea, Rel said. They cooked it anyway. The result was light, with a crisp edge and a deep, umami finish. Nolan took a bite and let out a low whistle. Not bad. It is not reproducible, Rel said. Exactly. That night, the delegation hosted a meal. Not a formal diplomatic dinner. Just food. The humans brought casseroles and dumplings. The aliens produced a dish of spiral layered gelatin that shimmered like oil on water. Kira raised her fork. What is this? It collapsed twice during preparation, the leader said. Then it's perfect. Laughter not loud, but real rippled from both sides. After the meal, Nolan stepped outside to the observation platform. The sky was clear, stars sharp against the black. Rel joined him, holding a small plate. We will return to orbit tomorrow, he said. No more pancakes? We will attempt our own variants. But they will never be quite the same. Nolan looked out past the curve of the Earth. That's the point. Rel was quiet for a while. Then, we still do not understand why you risk imprecision. Because sometimes the best things happen when you don't know what's going to happen. Rel nodded, watching the stars. We will remember that. And that was enough.